newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news at this time comes to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories. I am Deanna Jordan. A very good morning to you. First, the lead stories. The president and the opposition leader are to meet shortly. Poor Guyanese are to get low-cost homes that will first be used to host Caribbean Premier League spectators later this year. A Surinamese opposition party is pressuring the government there to disclose agreements with Guyana. News in the region, the St. Kitts and Nevis governing coalition may be on the verge of collapse. And for the international news, we'll bring to you the latest news bulletin from the BBC World Service. The details of these and other stories will be coming up right here in just a moment.
A COVID-19 PCR test is now mandatory for many routine activities, including travel and return-to-work purposes. At Eureka, our trained and experienced staff will ensure confidentiality while your test is conducted in a professional and timely manner, with results in just 48 hours. So the next time you require an efficient and hassle-free PCR COVID-19 test, call 624-8378, 608-8378, or 623-7233 to schedule your appointment. You can also ask about our house call testing service.
And now the news in detail. President Irfan Ali says he will be inviting opposition leader Aubrey Norton to constitutionally required consultations on the appointment of a number of service commissions and a substantive police commissioner. Speaking with reporters at Pegasus Hotel on the sidelines of the launch of the 2022 Building Expo, he said the letter of invitation would be dispatched to Mr. Norton on Thursday.
My intention is to meet with the leader of the opposition within 2 weeks. Well, there are a number of matters, constitutional matters that has to be addressed. So those are the matters that will primarily be on the table. The commissions, yeah. But we have to get the Judicial Service Commission and everything in place. So yes, all the constitutional issues that require consultation with the leader of the opposition will be on the table.
The People's Progressive Party Civic-led administration and the People's National Congress Reform-led opposition coalition have so far refused to hold other political talks. The Ali-led government first wants the opposition to recognize the government as having been legitimately elected in free and fair elections held in 2020. Long-serving United Kingdom parliamentarian David Lammy has been selected by Guyana's President Irfan Ali to sit on the Natural Resource Fund (NRF) board. The Office of the President also announced that the board will be chaired by former military chief, retired Major General Joseph Singh. Mr. Lammy, who is currently Shadow Foreign Secretary, is the son of a Guyanese mother who migrated to the United Kingdom as a part of the 1948 to 1971 Windrush generation. Also sitting on the NRF board to help manage Guyana's oil revenues is Guyana's permanent representative to the United States, Caroline Rodriguez, who is also former Guyana Foreign Minister. Other members are private sector representative, well-known city business executive Ramesh Duku, and former People's National Congress Reform PNCR executive member Dunstan Barrow. Nominees by the opposition A Partnership for National Unity and its coalition partner Alliance for Change for the parliamentary representative had been all rejected by the governing People's Progressive Party Civic in favor of Mr. Barrow. The Office of the President says they will soon be sworn in by President Irfan Ali. The Guyana government will be building 300 prefabricated houses to rent to spectators at the Caribbean Premier League (CPL) from September 30. President Irfan Ali told the launch of the 2022 International Building Expo that the earnings will be used as part of the mortgage for neediest Guyanese.
We are setting aside land to build 300 prefab homes. The prefab homes will be used during cricket to host people, to rent. And the revenue from that rental will go as down payment to the banks for the poorest persons. So the 10-15% that they have to find for the bank will come from the revenue that building earns for 2 weeks. And that revenue will go towards that, and then so that will take up what they had to find up front. And then if you work it out, the type of houses we're talking about is maybe $15,000-$20,000 per month. That is the type of innovation we're talking about and had discussion on moving forward.
President Irfan Ali. A policewoman has filed a private criminal charge under Guyana's racial hostility law. Woman Constable Shawnette Ballers, who is an Afro-Guyanese, filed the charge against Indo-Guyanese lawyer Nirvan Singh. Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan granted the lawyer $100,000 bail and ordered that he return to court next month. Particulars of the charge state that on March 20, he excited or attempted to excite racial hostility or ill will against Ms. Ballers. At the time, she had been on duty at the residence of former Chancellor of the Judiciary, Carl Singh, on Middle and Cummings Streets, Georgetown. Constable Ballers has accused attorney-at-law of using words to her in a public place such as, and I quote, "black monkey," "monkey," and "black people have no purpose in life," end of quote. Mr. Singh has already publicly denied hurling racial slurs against Constable Ballers. In Suriname, the opposition National Democratic Party, NDP, is calling on the government there to disclose all agreements with Guyana to the parliament. NDP faction leader Robin Parmesar issued the call amid the Guyana government's persistent concerns about promises that have been made by Suriname's president, Chandrika Prasad Santokhi. The Surinamese leader had promised that 150 Surinamese fishing licenses would have been issued to Guyanese. Parmesar has been questioning why Suriname's Foreign Affairs Minister, Albert Ramadin, did not summon the Guyanese ambassador and file a protest note on the matter. The NDP faction leader says Suriname is getting a bad name internationally because of statements by the Guyanese government that there is hard evidence that the Surinamese leader had promised the fishing licenses to Guyanese. Since last year, Parmesar has been asking the government about fishing licenses but has not received a conclusive answer. A 19-year-old man has been wounded and 2 persons have since been arrested. Police say Suresh Balrup of Mosquito Hall, Mahaika, East Coast Demerara, was stabbed to his right side chest. The incident occurred at about 9:15 Tuesday night on the Unity Seawall, East Coast Demerara. Those arrested are a 41-year-old fisherman and a 33-year-old man, both of Unity, Mahaika. Investigators were told that Balrup and the suspects had a previous misunderstanding. While on the seawall with other family members, Balrup allegedly lashed the 41-year-old man on his back with a cutlass. Police say Balrup is hospitalized in stable condition. And now moving on to news in the region. Rakim Mayers, better known as ASAP Rocky, was detained on Wednesday at Los Angeles International Airport. Officials familiar with the matter say he was held in connection with a November 2021 shooting. Mayers was arriving on a private plane from Barbados, where he had been on vacation with his girlfriend, the singer Rihanna. Mayers' attorney, Alan Jackson, confirmed that his client had been arrested. Mayers had been under investigation by the Los Angeles Police Department for a November 6th shooting in 2021 near Vista Del Mar and Selma Avenue around 10:20 p.m. The shooting victim later told police that Mayers, who was walking with two others, approached him with a handgun on the street. The victim claimed Mayers shot at him 3 to 4 times and believed one of the bullets grazed his left hand. The shooting had not yet been reported in the media. St. Kitts and Nevis Deputy Prime Minister Sean Richards has strongly suggested that the Team Unity-led coalition government may be heading for collapse. Mr. Richards, who is the leader of the People's Action Movement, says he is not confident of the outcome. Prime Minister Timothy Harris has been given an ultimatum that ended Wednesday midnight to propose possible solutions to the rift in the coalition. The Concerned Citizens Movement, which controls Nevis, is also calling on the Prime Minister to fix some of the deep-seated lingering problems about the way the coalition is governing the Twin Island Federation. If the People's Action Movement and Concerned Citizens Movement parliamentarians resign, the government will fall and general elections will have to be called. Meanwhile, political pundits say Prime Minister Harris is preparing his People's Labour Party for early elections by fielding candidates in all constituencies in St. Kitts. Richards said that was not the agreement prior to the 2015 elections. And now for the international news, here is the latest news bulletin from the BBC World Service.
BBC News. Hello, this is Jerry Smith. President Putin has ordered the Russian military to seal off the Azovstal industrial zone in Mariupol, the last bastion of Ukrainian resistance in the city. Ukraine says about 1,000 civilians are sheltering in the steelworks alongside the remaining Ukrainian fighters. From Moscow, Jenny Hill reports.
In a televised meeting, Vladimir Putin solemnly congratulated his defence minister. Establishing control over the important strategic city of Mariupol was, he said, a success. There are still Ukrainian fighters in the city's Azovstal steelworks, but Mr. Putin called off Russian plans to storm the plant, giving an order instead to blockade it so tightly that even a fly couldn't get through. Russia, he said, would give the fighters another chance to lay down their weapons and surrender.
Ukraine's armed forces report that Russia is continuing its assault along the entire line of contact in the Donbas region and in the south of Ukraine. It said Russia continued to launch missile and bomb attacks on military and civilian infrastructure. Ukraine's military intelligence says Russian occupiers in the east are sealing off towns on the border, leaving open only routes into Russia. It says in settlements around Veliki and Borluk in the Kharkiv region, occupying troops have imposed a ban on any evacuations or humanitarian aid and have warned locals that any volunteers trying to get aid through will be executed. The Chinese leader Xi Jinping has restated Beijing's opposition to sanctions, such as those imposed by Western countries on Russia. Addressing a regional economic forum, Mr. Xi said China was against long-arm jurisdiction and condemned what he called Cold War mentalities.
In today's world, any unilateralism and extreme egoism are fundamentally unworkable, and any decoupling, cutting off supplies and extreme pressure are fundamentally unworkable. Confrontation is unworkable.
A majority of French voters believe the incumbent, Emmanuel Macron, got the better of his far-right challenger Marine Le Pen in last night's televised presidential debate. Hugh Schofield is in Paris.
If you look at the editorialists and commentators, they all are saying that Macron won. I think, on the arguments, he clearly had the better of it. He had still a greater grasp of the detail, and he was able to point up inconsistencies quite regularly in Marine Le Pen's discourse. But people aren't voting necessarily for her on whether or not she technically won the arguments, whether she got the last word in and so on. I mean, it's much more about her image, her personality, what she represents. And in that, I think she kind of confirmed herself and maybe elevated her status somewhat.
BBC News. Israeli security forces have again used stun grenades and tear gas inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem, as some Palestinians threw stones and firecrackers. The latest unrest comes after Israel targeted Hamas facilities in central Gaza overnight in response to a rocket fired from the territory by Palestinian militants. The Hamas leader, Ismail Haniyeh, has said that is only the beginning of the battle. The former president of Afghanistan, Hamid Karzai, has called for all girls in the country to be allowed to attend school. Afghanistan's hardline rulers have been widely criticised for backtracking on their promise to allow older girls to get an education. Sikandar Kamani reports.
The number of girls enrolled in school in Afghanistan had increased dramatically over the past 2 decades. But now, in most of the country, the Taliban are not allowing older female pupils to get an education. The former president, Hamid Karzai, said he believed public pressure would eventually lead to a change in policy by the Taliban.
That was unfortunate. That was reacted to strongly by the Afghan people, especially by the clergy and the religious scholars of the country. So that is one very, very significant point of hope and gives us confidence.
The International Court of Justice has ruled in favour of Nicaragua in a long-running dispute with Colombia over maritime waters in the Caribbean Sea. The judges said Colombia had breached international law by continuing to allow fishing in areas the court ruled belonged to Nicaragua in 2012. At least 2 teachers in Iran are reported to have been arrested during a protest outside the Ministry of Education in Tehran. Similar rallies are being held in a number of cities across Iran, in the latest protest demanding better pay and conditions. BBC News.
The news came to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories.
Don't let the fear of contracting the coronavirus disease deter you from seeking the medical care you need. At Eureka Labs, we ensure the safety of our clients and staff with our rigid sanitization routine. This involves the use of ultraviolet lights to effectively rid the air and all surfaces of viruses and bacteria that may be present throughout the lab daily. The light works to rapidly inactivate microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
Here now is a recap of the leads. The president and the opposition leader are to meet shortly. Poor Guyanese are to get low-cost homes that will first be used to host Caribbean Premier League spectators later this year. A Surinamese opposition party is pressuring the government there to disclose agreements with Guyana. In regional news, the St. Kitts and Nevis governing coalition may be on the verge of collapse. And that's the end of the news.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.